Good morning and welcome to WKNI TV 25. We're live here at the studios on this beautiful cold Monday morning, and we're here with Chief Dorsey. I almost called you, I don't know, McGlamory or something like that. Chief McGlamory. Yeah. He's a good guy. He really is. He's a lot of fun. He's been there for a number of years, as you have. Chief, welcome to WKNI. Appreciate you coming. How's the family?
Fine.
All them young ladies? Yeah. Well, you got all girls, don't you? No?
No. Okay. Got two boys at the house.
Ah, okay. Well,
I got two older boys, and my oldest son is 31 years old.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay. And, of course, your beautiful wife? You're on TV live now. Okay. Boy, you need to call us, Mrs. Dorsey. We got some stuff to tell you off camera. But Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
By golly. Lots going on over the holidays, and this is one of the, I guess for me when I was in the fire department, it was one of the most concerning times of the year for us, as well as heartbreaking at times, because it's a holiday season and people lose things, and when there's a house fire or there's a traffic accident where somebody's hurt, it's kind of a little bit more personal in a way that it's going to affect the holidays that's supposed to be happy, and that's what we want to talk about today is safety and especially Christmas trees and heaters right now. Big thing. Christmas tree, how long does it take to burn up?
Very few seconds.
About 20 seconds, it's gone. And we're talking about from the first time it's ignited from the spark or from the flame, and a Christmas tree will go up, and it burns at a very high temperature as well. We're talking close to 2,000 degrees, and anything around it or above it is going to incinerate, and you don't have a whole lot of time. So, Chief, I'm talking about it. You tell us about. I got to put my fire hat on sometimes. I turn around. I said, "No, I'm the news guy. Let's go ahead and let you be the fireman." But tell us about some of the safety things to look for in Christmas trees.
Well, actually, if you're going to use a live tree, people do not think that just because it's been cut down, that if you water it, that it won't moisten that tree. It will. You should put it in some type of a pot that either you can keep water in the bottom of it, or if you put it in a pot that's got dirt in it, make sure it stays moist, because it will keep the needles from falling off or drying out. And that's when your most fire hazard happens, is once the tree starts drying out. Anything get close to it, any type of heaters, any type of, if you put it close to a fireplace, that's one place you don't want to put it. It is very easy for one that's dried out to ignite. And
once it happens, I mean, you don't have any time to react when there's a Christmas tree that catches fire.
That's correct. Before you know it, it's up and going, and pretty much too late to do anything about it. And anything surrounding it, combustible, it's going to catch it. And we've had videos of some practice fires that the NFPA have done and other agencies have done to show just how quick a room can go up from a Christmas tree.
A very hot fire.
Very hot.
Very hot. And, folks say, well, okay, well, first off, even if you have a Christmas tree and you get it cut and you take it home, just don't stick it in the bucket of water.
No.
Always cut maybe an inch or so off the bottom.
Because it's already dried out.
It's got a scab on it.
Yes.
And I used to take mine and make hash cuts into it on the bottom, so it's inside, so it would draw that water up in it. They last a little bit longer. Aspirins don't work.
No, no. That's a myth.
I remember my mom used to take a bottle of aspirin and throw it in the tree, and I'm like, gee, Mom, what's that do? She says, it lets it suck the water up. And I'm like, yeah, well, it just costs you a couple of dollars in aspirin. But anyhow, folks feel safe when they do the artificial tree. Again, placement is, people say location, location, location means a lot of things in business life. Well, location, location, location means a lot for any tree.
That's correct.
So tell us a little about that.
Well, there again, you don't want to put it around any heaters, put it around any fireplaces, close to fireplaces. And before you even put your lights on, you need to check them and make sure you don't have any frays or where the wires may short out or anything like that, so that, you know, whenever it's there, even a plastic tree or artificial tree is just as flammable once it ever gets started. I mean, it's going to burn. It's going to burn hot. So keeping it away from other combustibles and flammable stuff is the best option on that.
Well, the light bulbs have heat
Yes.
in them as well. I don't care if they're the little bitty ones or the big ones. They've got heat. And you've got to keep that in mind when you're putting your presents underneath. You got to remember that when you're putting it on an artificial tree as well as a real tree. A real tree dries out from the heat from the lights quicker. And there's no such thing as a cool light. I don't care if it's an LED. I don't care if it's incandescent, whatever. It's still going to produce heat. And folks will sit there, and I know this sounds terrible because you sit there and you go, Eddie, really, do people do this? But when they came out with those little lights, and people got frustrated because some of them used to have, if one light burned out, okay, the whole string went out. And when you'd find that light that went out, some folks, instead of, because you couldn't replace the light or they didn't know how to, they would take foil and stick down in there. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
How great of an idea is that?
That's not a good idea at all, because you're sending direct power to that light or to that cord, and if something happens, it's not going to stop sending power. You know, it's
There's
the
a
same
reason
thing
for that.
People will go in
It's
and
a
they'll
fuse light.
put pennies behind screwing fuses in a house
Yeah.
because they can't find a fuse for it, or won't go to the store and get one.
Go to Brooks.
You know, and stuff like that. That's just never a good idea. There are safety reasons that they do these lights the way they do them, so that if there is a problem, that when these things burn out, that's the purpose. It's to shut the rest of them off, so it's not a problem with them.
All right, now we've got ornaments that we're putting up or lighting outside. We say, oh, it's safe, it's outside. Again, you're talking about electricity, you're talking about weather that's damp and wet. It says outdoor lighting on it. So you assume automatically you can throw up the outdoor lights and everything's cool. How wrong is that?
Well, it's just like anything, Eddie. Lights, when they say weatherproof, that is only to a certain degree. It depends on what the weather is. There's very few things that you can actually say that is weatherproof for the outside elements. And the most common thing would be if it's a bad weather day or if it's raining a lot outside, not to plug them up or turn them on, because after a while you're going to get moisture build up in it and you're going to wind up having a short somewhere. So it's just doing that type of inclement weather is just best not to even much.
Well, people forget too that this is a time of year where we have huge temperature variations, and heat expands and cold contracts. And those light bulbs and those fixtures, they expand and open, allowing moisture in them. And you hear sometimes people say, I hear a sizzling, you know, in my lights. It's time to pull the light cord, take that light string down, and get rid of it, because you have got moisture built up in the
And that's
socket.
usually the reason why these things are so cheap, because even the manufacturers know that
Made in China, yeah.
they know their limits of what these things will do. And
Putting nails and staples in the wires too. That's really a cool thing.
not a good idea, because a lot of people don't pay attention to where they're putting a nail, they're putting a staple, and all it takes is for you to put that staple through that wire, and it sits there on that wood and start conducting enough heat through that staple, and you're going to have problems.
A lot of folks that's sitting at home right now don't realize too that when you got electrical cables, okay, like an extension cord, okay, extension cords are I consider one of America's most home destroyers in the country, because that multi-outlets get overused. We found that out ourselves, even as an experienced firefighter. You assume things, you know, oh, this has got a circuit breaker on it. Don't matter.
No, it does not, because there's no guarantee that circuit breaker is going to work.
And they're made in China. We
They
got to
were
go back.
tested
Right.
in a controlled environment. Does not mean that it's going to work whenever you need it to. And when you plug enough stuff into these things, it's just not a good idea. A lot of people, because they don't want them to be seen,
Right.
they want to run them up under carpets.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll turn around and they'll set furniture on top of that carpet. And if you've got pressure on that cord, it's going to continue to sit there and build heat, build heat, and build heat. And at some point in time, if you don't have a fire, you're lucky because it is subject to happen.
The long extension cords or long wires, coil them up, what happens?
Build heat. You got a heat bill. This conductor.
Right.
It sits there in that little small area and it builds heat. It has no way to cool off because it's so much piled up in one area.
And if you ever grab an extension cord that's been plugged in any length of time that's coiled up, you'll feel the warmth in that cord, and it'll multiply if there's an issue anywhere where that circuit is.
Yes.
And that heat, if you throw a blanket on top of it or a carpet on top of it, you're just multiplying the possibility of something being combustible and starting a fire in your home. You and I just went to a house fire here, I believe it was on 1st and 3rd or something like that, here just a few weeks ago, where the gentleman had a flat screen TV.
Yes.
All right, and he came out to me, he said, yeah, I did it. He set the TV on top of an ottoman. All right. These flat screen TVs build up a lot of heat.
They build up a lot of heat.
And you're talking about, again, conducting heat and transferring it to a combustible material.
That's correct. And over a period of time, if you sit it there long enough, it's going to sit there, and it's got cloth, you've got styrofoam, and when it starts drying it out, it's very easy to conduct enough heat to cause a combustion. And that was the source that we found.
Right.
When I went in to look and see what was the cause of the fire over there.
Whenever there's heat, it's hard for people to understand this. If there's anything that's generating any heat, it has the possibility of starting a fire, no matter whether it's a light bulb. People throw hats on top of light fixtures.
Yes.
I'll throw a shirt on top of these radiator heaters. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where they throw a shirt over the top of a radiator heater to warm the shirt up before they put it on.
Yeah.
Okay. And they forget it. Next thing you know, the house is gone. And, we don't have a lot of house fires in this community, but we're talking on a national level. It only takes one time as a victim of a house fire last year, October 10th. That had nothing to do with electrical. That was Eddie's cooking. But we won't go there. We don't cook French fries no more in the house. But I'm not allowed to touch anything that has grease in it on the stove anymore. But it's a good positive thing. We've been fire safe now for over a year. But whenever there's a source of heat, it's got the potential of being ignited.
That's correct. And a lot of things, Eddie, that people don't even much think about. And I've never really, I have talked to some of the seniors when I've gone around to some of the little clubs and talked to them about it, that you would never think that would happen. A lot of people will take dish rags that they have gone in the kitchen, washed their stove with several times, wipe grease up off the table, and put them in the washing machine and wash them. The automatic thinking is, it's washed all the grease out of that rag. Well, once they get through washing them, then they put them in the dryer, dry them. Don't give them time to cool off and take them out and fold them. I've been to 3 fires in my existence with the fire department that when they done that, without letting those rags cool off and fold them and lay them up on top of a dryer, they will spontaneously combust out.
Because of the multiple layers of heat.
And the grease.
Yep. Wow. I never said.
It does not wash it all out. Even not saying per se just all grease. Any type of cloth.
Right.
One we had was, it was just drying bath towels.
Right.
They took them out without them letting them go through the cool down.
I've gone on those now, where a pile of clothes is thrown up against a wall, and some were wet, some weren't, and
they didn't let them go through the cool down stage. They just took them out while they were hot, folded them up, stacked them on top of each other, put them on top of the dryer.
Well, the old oily rag and container thing, taking oily rags and throwing them down on on a pile, even at a car shop, is not recommended. They've got a lid that they cover the rags with, because of the spontaneous combustion possibilities. And what is grease on a stove? Nothing. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like oil in the car. It's still a base of ignition.
And you don't have to have an ignition source on those type of fires.
Exactly.
I mean, they'll create their own.
Well, Chief, we talked about Christmas trees. We talked about Christmas lights. We've talked about the different, electrical cords and things like that. Then we mentioned briefly fireplaces. Right now, it's a great time to light up your fireplace. Talk about that.
Well, if you're going to use a fireplace all the time, you need to find someone at least once a year to come in and inspect that fireplace and clean it, because you build crystal up in the chimney, and it can combust. Just because you're burning, and especially it's worse if you're burning green wood.
Right.
It will build up a whole lot more in the fireplace. And there again, putting stuff around the fireplace. You need to keep everything a certain distance away from your fireplaces, because it'll sit there and it'll heat up and it'll heat up, and then sooner or later it's going to happen. You're going to have a fire. A lot of people do not put the safety screens around the front of the fireplaces. That's not a good idea if you're going to use a open fireplace and actually burn wood in it.
Radiated heat is a very dangerous situation, and that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the open flame of the fire.
Yes,
we're talking about the radiated heat. The heat that you walk up to the fireplace on and do this with when you get close to it, that heat is enough to cause a fire in your home.
Well, a lot of people have learned that from a first-hand experience, because they'll go up there and back up to the fireplace or back up to the heater and say, "Oh, my pants are smoking." That's why. If they'll do that, then anything you put around it,
right,
it's got the same potential.
Well, you say that and I laugh, because I'm not going to say I did that, but I know somebody that did, and it was a very, it was a scary moment, because it lit up, and a lot of clothes have polyester in them, and if you got polyester, it's a very fast burning. Cotton burns, but it doesn't burn as fast as polyester. And any artificial man-made product burns quicker than well, except for Nomex and things like that. But anyway, normal clothing will burn quickly, and you don't want to have a polyester or nylon item on. These windbreaker jackets are made of nylon. You got them on and you get near a fire, and they melt. Yeah, well, imagine if they catch fire, they're going to melt right to your skin, and it'll cause third-degree burns instantaneously upon touching. People say, well, all right, I got gas heat, I got gas logs, I ain't worried about it, I'm going to turn everything on. Still a problem?
Or you still want to make sure that the position of those gas logs, if you have not checked them during the year. Summertime is the worst time for any type of gas heat, because it sits there. They don't do anything with it. And then the first time it cools down enough, if it has a thermostat, it either kicks on or they go in there and light it.
Right.
The biggest problem that we've had in this year, knock on wood, that we have not had that situation, is we've had these older residents that has floor furnaces.
Right.
Well, you can only turn that floor furnace down so low. And when it gets cold enough, you may not be at home. And most people during the year, they'll take and they'll put a rug over the vent, over the vent of that floor furnace, to keep when you walk across it from dirt going into it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And if that heater, if it gets low enough and that thermostat is still set, you can set it as low as it can be. During the summertime, it's going to stay low enough it'll never come on. But if it comes on during the winter and you got that vent, that floor furnace covered up, then when that heater comes on, you're going to have your fire.
Well, that's a good point, but lots of folks sit there and go, boy, my heater has a funny smell every time I, kick it off the first time every winter. It smells like burning dust.
Exactly what it is.
Little hint, okay?
Exactly what it is.
It's something that needs to be checked, because before you light that heater up, you should check for the dust before it burns, because if you have enough accumulated on that, it'll cause a fire.
We've run several calls this year already because of that fact of first-time light up of heaters.
It'll get
and
your
if you have an alarm system in your residence or your business, when it comes on, and it does it, that tells you that it is smoke enough that it's setting your alarms off, because it will set them off.
You got electric gas, or electric heat, you got gas heat, you've got fire log heat. all of the above, have professionals that can come out and inspect those things, right?
That's correct.
And-
Anytime that you have a lot of people out in the rural areas has propane gas and stuff like that. Even you can call your propane company.
Is there much oil heat left around? That
Very
was
little.
dangerous.
Very little. I mean, I don't see it in residence anymore. I have not.
We used to
a
have
long
oil
time.
heat. We almost lost our house from it one time
Yes.
because that is a very dangerous type of heating.
It
Two
is.
reasons. One, it creates carbon monoxide in the home if it has the littlest issue with the vent.
Yes.
And it's also they used to build them inside the walls like in a little cubby hole. And where's the heat going to go?
Right.
Right into the walls.
And that's the other thing that we're getting to where we don't see near as much of that either, but they're still out there. Kerosene heaters.
There you go.
Inside of a house.
How about the space heaters? Yeah, rah, rah, rah.
They still can create a lot of problems. But the biggest concern usually during the year that I have is especially people that cannot afford gas heat. They do not have central heat. And they go out and they grab these kerosene heaters and put them in the house. That's not what they're designed for.
Right.
That's not a good idea for them, because if that thing burns out and it's in a room, it will sit there and burn just enough to put off carbon monoxide.
It'll kill you.
And it will kill you.
And you know, carbon monoxide is a silent killer. All right, you won't know it's in the room. You can't smell it. You can't see it. Okay, and you can't hear it. And carbon monoxide for me, if I was in a carbon monoxide situation, I'd be beet red. Okay, from the lack of oxygen and richness of
Right.
carbon monoxide. Well, that's a visual effect, but by the time I'm beet red, I have already got damage. And brain damage has happened and all the above. And there's no reversing that. Then it's very hard to get carbon monoxide out of the system once it's there. They throw oxygen on people. Do you realize that it's 10,000 to 1 or something like that, particles or atoms of oxygen it takes to take out one molecule of carbon monoxide?
And that's the other thing with space heaters that people need to start checking, especially if it's a vented heater.
Right.
You make sure your venting is proper.
Just don't use it.
Make sure it's not clogged up.
Right.
Because a lot of people have these pipes going out, and if it's where a bird can get in there and build a nest, during the summertime, they're supposed to build a nest in there.
Yep.
And if you don't know it, and you light that heater up and start using it, it's going to work.
We got chimney
But
sweeps.
you're
Like-
not letting the carbon monoxide go out
Right.
that it's burning off of it.
We had chimney sweeps invade our chimney this year. And they're not the chimney sweeps that you get to clean
no.
them. Okay, they're the birds. And I thought it was cute, because you hear the birds chirping and coming up and down. Well, we found out there was no screen or whatever on top. And when the guy came out this year and done the chimney sweep, he sat there and said, you need to put, I go, yeah, that's right. That's how the birds got down in there. And he sat there when he knocked the nest down. That nest was that big, and my chimney's only that big. And the ventilation was not going through. We're very lucky we did not have a problem with that as well.
Yes.
Chief, one of the main things that people need to check and make sure are operational, especially during the wintertime, if not year-round, smoke detectors.
That's correct. You need at least in any home, in your most common areas, to where you're going to have any type of electrical heaters or any type of gas heaters, and especially somewhere in the area of your kitchen, you need to have some type of smoke detectors, because if it works proper, it's going to make enough noise that where if you're at home sleep, somebody's going to hear it.
Right.
Unless they have a hearing impairment or something like that.
Well, they've even got
they've
those,
got some that
yeah.
strobes now,
Right.
to where they can actually see the visuals, see the lights. But
And there's some that have the higher end have vibrators that go on the bed for those that are visually or hearing impaired as well. And I saw those. I thought that was really cool. The best thing, folks, to say is be safe. Use a lot of common sense. The common sense factor plays a big role in this. If you think that if you're putting the tree up or there's something wrong, something's already told you something's wrong.
that's correct.
Okay? don't do it. Your family's not worth it. Your family,
They're worth
they're
it.
worth it.
You're
but, I
getting
mean,
that stuff to operate is not worth it.
It's not worth it to sit there and be cheap and not, put something up. I didn't mean it. The family's not worth it. Your family's worth the extra, precautions. To go out and, if you got a coffee table sitting, I moved mine back a little bit this year because we've got a lot of good heat coming out of now that we got the proper ventilation in the chimney. It produces a lot more heat. So I moved the coffee table back because if you touch the wood coffee table and you have to do that, you need to move something.
Whatever's close around it, if you can't touch it and hold your hand on it for any particular time, it needs to be moved back because it's generating it's too close to the heat source.
Chief, one of the biggest things you face on a daily basis with your firemen is placing them in a situation that is life-threatening every time they go out on a call like this. And folks have a misconception that smokehouse is a perfect way to show people what really happens in a fire situation. But how about doorways and things that you and I would think are normally accessible for going in and out of? How important is it to make sure that they are accessible and that there's ways to get in, especially in an emergency situation where a fireman's coming in?
Well, it's not so much as for us to get in, because if it's blocked, I can assure you, we're going to get in there.
Right.
Regardless of how much damage it caused. If you've got a fire, we're going to get in there the best way we can. The most important thing is for the residents themselves, because a lot of people has got this conception that as long as they've got an exit, they're fine.
Right.
That's not necessarily true.
What
if there's a fire up there close to that exit? Then you can't go that way. And you've got another door back here that you got to spend time of moving all your stuff that you've piled up over the years from that door before you can get out of it. So you need to at least keep 2 ways out of any resident. A lot of people will think, well, I got windows in the house. Well, unless you knock them out, a lot of times these older houses, they've been painted so many times, these windows are not going to go up. You're going to sit there and you're going to fight trying to get that window out. And it does not take long once the fire starts and the smoke starts building up before you can be overcome by smoke.
And that happens 99% of the time. Very few burned people have I pulled out that have expired in a fire. It's always been, somebody that's overcome with smoke and carbon dioxide. Very little burns on the bodies. Planning. How important is to have a family plan when if there is an emergency, a place to meet, a place to get out, and things like that?
That's very important because that way everybody's out of the house. You know what direction that you're planning to go. You know where you're planning to meet at, so you can account for everyone, and especially for young kids. That is something that should be practiced all the time.
You said practice. You have to have drills.
Yeah, practice it. I mean, actually practice it. Right. Say, hey, look, just catch them in there when they've got a game going or something on the TV or something. Although a lot of kids, when they're younger, they're more apt to do it than they are when they get a little bit bigger. Say, hey, kids, all right, we got a fire in the house. What we're going to do? Go do it.
Right.
And get that in their head at a young age. And that way, if it ever does happen.
Teresa will laugh with me on this one. My kids were known to get woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with a smoke-producing fog emanator and the smoke detector going off at 2 o'clock in the morning, yelling fire, and having a fire drill. And I took it to extremes, but we done it once or twice, didn't we, baby? But but. The thing is safety. You can't,
You can't ever be too safe.
No, you can't be. And your family's worth every penny of investment that you put into safety. Chief, I guess Merry Christmas, and hope you don't have to have a call out on anybody's misfortune this time of year.
I hope the same thing, that everybody have a good Christmas and a Happy New Year, and ask that everybody do one thing. And we had a sermon on it yesterday. Let's all go back and put Christ back in Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you. That says a lot. Chief Dorsey, God bless you. Merry Christmas. And folks, safety, safety, safety. Don't let your family burn. And I'm not kidding. That's serious words right there. Don't let your family burn. If you have any questions, call them at the fire department, 222-1121, 222-1121. Chief Dorsey, I'm sure his competent firemen over there will be more than happy to assist you through any questions. If they don't have an answer, they will get you one. If you have any questions about the safety of your gas or electric, contact the electric company or the gas company. They will come out and do an inspection and look it over for you. Chimney sweeps, there's a couple in the phone books that you can get hold of. The other thing I want to talk real quick, hot water heaters, okay, are lots of times are placed out in garages, okay? And where do you store your lawnmower? Where do you store your gas? Okay? You got to think about that, because gas fumes, as it gets warmer and cooler and warmer and cooler, if you've got a 5-gallon gas can out there full of gas, you won't smell it today. But tomorrow when it warms up to 70 degrees, you'll have that gas fumes out there. And that hot water heater is gas out there, like a lot of them are. It's a perfect time for disaster.
Well, people don't understand that a lot of times that the solid gas itself is not whatever burns.
That's right.
It's the vapors.
And with that, we got to go, and we wished everybody, that just came to me because, again, you never know. There's so many ways for a situation to arise in your home. Be preventative. Always think first ahead. What happens if this is there? What happens if I move that there? Well, it's summertime. I'm going to go ahead and close off the fireplace. That doesn't keep things from not happening inside. As well as you're dusting your heater. Don't light it up. And it's too late now. They've all lit up. But, boy, I smell something burning. It's too late. Call the fire department. 911 is your number to call if you have an emergency. God bless you again. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank the Andalusia Fire Department. Guess who's going to be on duty Christmas Day?
Well, I'm always on duty, Eddie.
Well, I'm talking about the fire department, not just you.
Yeah.
There'll be men in that
Oh
station
yeah, there's
over there.
someone there 7 days.
There'll be
a week,
law enforcement,
24 hours a
firefighters
day.
out
We're
there.
always there.
Hey, and I'll tell you what, if you got some great Christmas meals, I used to love it. Okay, when I was in the fire department, the neighborhood would come together, drop off pies, drop off turkeys. We always ate well on the holidays.
Our main saying is we made those, but we never closed.
There you go. God bless y'all. Remember, keep it real. Keep God in it. Merry Christmas.